How's it going, everybody? It's C-RadTV back here in another video. So, of course, it's time for another Detroit Lions NFL draft preview. So, in the last draft preview, we took a look at the top day 2 defensive lineman prospects in terms of defensive ends, edge rushers, and defensive tackles. And in this part, we're going to take a look at the top day 2 linebacker prospects in the 2022 NFL draft for rounds 2 and 3 of the draft. Since linebacker is a massive need for the Lions, and the Lions are going to have a really good chance to address that need in round 2 and 3 of the draft. So yeah, and there's some pretty interesting names to go over here. So we're going to take a look at the top prospects and see who the Lions should take a look at. So yeah, anyway, let's go. So starting off with inside linebackers, the first one we're going to go over here, hailing out of Oklahoma, standing 6 feet tall, weighing 225 pounds. We got Brian Azeez. So for Brian's strengths, he has very active feet. Always proactively adjusting in coverage, possesses easy back pedal that covers ground efficiently. He's urgent coming downhill, has an explosive first step. He's a task-oriented defender, won't let his eyes stray in the run game. He races away into plays and demonstrates the motor you would like to see in an NFL linebacker. He's a controlled mover, takes smart angles, has short area quickness. He's fantastic, willing to throw his body around, be violent with his approach. He's intelligent, instinctive player. He can process info very quickly. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his tackle radius, it isn't ideal. It causes some lapses against elusive runners. He doesn't have the prototype size for an NFL linebacker, though. He looks more like a box safety than a traditional inside linebacker, though. His take-on toughness is there. He'll get out-muscled, though, too regularly in between the tackles. It'll take a while for him to build up to top speed in space. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's big compared to Patrick Queen of the Baltimore Ravens, so a lot of upside for sure. A lot of things you would like to see an NFL linebacker. A couple things to clean up, but yeah, definitely someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Georgia, standing 5'11", weighing 225 pounds, we got Nakobe Dean. So for Nakobe, he's your prototype read and react inside linebacker, so he's very good at reading and reacting to the play. In terms of strength, he's an intelligent, instinctive player. He was the heart and soul of the Bulldogs defense last year. He's light on his feet. He's able to make smooth adjustments. He play above his weight class as a blitzer. He's a homing missile in the run game. Speedster that can cover a lot of ground despite a short stride length. He's very vocal and very communicative with his teammates, something you really need to see out of a player. He has great spatial awareness and feel for his surroundings. He's mean temperament, flashes a lot as a tackler. He's disruptive from zone coverage. He has excellent hand-eye coordination and reaction time. He pops back to his feet immediately if he's tripped up. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's short with a maxed-out frame. He looks more like a safety than a linebacker. Play strength's modest. He'll likely be an issue against bigger competition. Tackle radius is below average, though. He'll need space and open gaps to do his best work. He will get washed out on a regular basis if he tries to take on blockers head-to-head on the O-line. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Devin Bush of the Pittsburgh Steelers, so has a lot of upside for sure, has a lot of great communication, which is something you want to see on the defense and with the players. A couple things to clean up, but yeah, definitely someone I would really consider, at least in the second round, or maybe even with the 32nd overall pick for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Wisconsin, standing 6'2", weighing 260 pounds, we got Leo Chanel. So for Leo's strengths, he's built like a brick house. He's also your prototype strength inside linebacker, so he's very strong. But yeah, he's built like a brick house, can probably lift one too. Remarkable athlete for his size. He's a violent hitter, can send smaller backs flying. He has capable closing speed, which means he rarely misses chances to get involved in plays. He has phenomenal play strength, allows him to take on blockers and not lose an inch. He shocks the lineman with his power. He's smart with picking his pursuit angles. He has highly tuned eyes, can track runners through chaotic sight lines, and he works his way back into plays consistently. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his agility, it isn't a deal breaker, but it's going to hurt him a lot in coverage. His tackle radius is a tad small. Will lead to some diving efforts to make up the difference. He's not flexible and nimble enough to slip through small gaps. He can get flat-footed when he tries to cover backs in the passing game. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Reggie Ragland of the New York Giants. Definitely a lot of things for sure. A lot of great things about him for sure. A lot very strong too. Couple things to clean up, but yeah, definitely someone to consider for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Utah, standing 6'3", weighing 235 pounds, we got Devin Lloyd. So for Devin's strengths, he's intelligent and proactive with his adjustments and coverage. He's a smooth-moving athlete, can change directions without straining, uses his hands well in the run game, can keep his chest clean. His balance is reliable enough to take on blockers. He's a form tackler, won't get reckless with his approach. He has laterally slippery player, can peel off blocks on time, has the physical tools which give him a much higher ceiling than his current ability may suggest. And he has that versatility to see usage as a blitzer too, so he does offer some versatility for sure in pass rushing. In terms of his weaknesses though, he's not a powerful tackler. He will have a hard time finishing a lot of NFL backs in the hole. His eyes do get lost too often when he has to pick through pile-ups. His play speed, it doesn't match up well with his capabilities. He moves like he's playing at 70% most of the time, so he's got to find a way to always be looking like he's playing 100% at all times. He can get derailed on pursuit angles quite often, and too often he takes on blocks with his body rather than using his hands, so he's got to learn to use his hands more than just his body. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Mack Wilson of the Cleveland Browns. Still a lot of upside for sure, a lot of things to like about him. A couple things he's got to clean up and a few techniques he's got to learn, but someone definitely to keep an eye on for sure. And the final inside linebacker we're going to go over in this video before we move on to the outside linebackers. We got hailing out of Georgia, standing 6'2", weighing 235 pounds. We have Chann Dixon. So for Channing, he's your prototype run defense inside linebacker, so he's very good against the run game and can stuff the run. In terms of strengths, he's an easy mover. He's very active with his positioning. He hustles hard, can get into place from the backside. He pops back blockers when he makes contact with them. He plays with dynamite in his pads. Quick to find his balance, settle his feet, coming to tackle attempts. He's able to absorb contact from blockers without getting displaced too much. And he's a good straight line runner. He can cover space very quickly. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his lack of experience, it may make the transition in the NFL a little more difficult, so he may need a couple years to get adjusted. He will get lost at times in traffic. His range and coverage doesn't match his speed too much. He's a true inside linebacker, doesn't have ideal traits to move to the outside, so he might be just limited there. His flexibility in the lower half, it isn't consistent. It may limit his ability to slip through angles in the run game. And his awareness does have lapses, which get him into trouble in coverage. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Denzel Perryman of the Las Vegas Raiders. Still has a lot of upside for sure. A lot of things he would like for sure. Definitely somewhat. A couple things he'll have to clean up, and he may need a couple years to reach his max potential, but someone to keep an eye on for sure. So now moving on to the outside linebackers. The first one we're going to go over here, hailing out of Texas A&M, standing 6'2", weighing 240 pounds. We got Aaron Hansford. So for Aaron, his strengths are he's a low-built linebacker, has good size and weight distribution. He closes ground quickly and moves like a safety when he comes downhill. Good athlete, can run with tight ends, hold his own in coverage. He's versatile enough to play both inside and outside linebacker spots. We have some versatility in the middle of the defense. He's a creative blitzer, can mix up his approach. He's an easy lateral mover, can slip blocks and maintain his balance. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he is a late transitional linebacker, maybe the root of some awareness lapses. Too regularly, he loses track of the ball carrier in high traffic areas. He's still learning how to use his hands effectively when he takes on and sheds blocks. His physicality fluctuates from snap to snap. He's too inconsistent with his effort as a tackler, especially when his teammates are already on the scene. So he's got to learn to be more consistent as a tackler and not have that many misses. He's got to learn to sometimes do the play on his own. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Drew Tranquill of the Los Angeles Chargers. So definitely a lot of upside for sure. Gonna have to learn to be a little more consistent, but someone definitely to consider and keep an eye on for sure. And the final outside linebacker, the final player we're gonna go over in this video, we got hailing out of Oklahoma, standing 6'3", weighing 240 pounds. We got Nick Bonito. So for Nick, his strengths are he's a natural dropping into coverage, has adequate range to handle backs. He's a fluid mover, can flip his hips and change directions well for his size. He's a slippery lateral mover, can keep his balance through contact. He has control with his hand usage. He's difficult to knock off balance even when he's outmatched physically. He's burst and bend our NFL caliber style for an outside linebacker. And he's versatile enough to play both a 3-4 defensive scheme and a 4-3 defensive scheme. So he can play in literally any kind of defensive scheme you could think of. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his length looks modest for an outside linebacker. He lets his teammates finish plays a lot, allows his motor to run cold too often, so he's got to learn to keep that motor hot. He doesn't play with consistent leverage and gets uprooted too easily as a result, so he's got to learn to be more consistent. His anchor's too loose, he'll get overwhelmed by combo blocks. He's not consistent enough with getting out on the outside hip of tackles as a pass rusher, so again, he's got to be more consistent. His finesse rusher doesn't have the power to shock blockers with initial contact or the technique to outclass them. So he's going to have to learn to beat them off just on speed and finesse. And also for Bonito, he has been listed as a player that could disappoint in the NFL because he does have excellent reps given his natural athletic ability, though. However, there's too many stalemates and lapses of energy on his tape, though. And that inconsistent effort of his, it can be a sure ticket ride out of the NFL. So he's going to have to learn to be consistent and step up to the plate. Or he could be out of the league within 3 to 5 years. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Lorenzo Carter, the New York Giants. So he has a lot of upside and athletic ability for sure, but the main thing is his inconsistency. That could be a problem. He's going to have to learn to be more consistent if he's going to want to have a career in the NFL. Or he could be out. Definitely maybe someone to consider for sure. But yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here for this NFL draft preview for the Detroit Lions. So yeah, definitely a lot of linebacker prospects to consider for sure, since it's pretty likely the Lions will be taking a linebacker on day 2 of the draft. And more likely round 2. If not that, if the Lions don't take one at pick 32. To be perfectly honest, I think the Lions are their first round pick. I think it's going to be a receiver. But you never know with this draft. You never know what Brad Holmes has in store for that great, bold Detroit master plan. But yeah, anyway, that wraps up for this draft preview. Definitely some names to keep an eye on and consider for sure. So yeah, on the next draft preview, we're going to wrap up round day 2 of the draft and rounds 2 and 3 of the draft by taking a look at the defensive backs and safeties to see what names the Lions should consider. So yeah, that'll be next time. But yeah, anyway, that's all I got to say. Hope everyone has a great day, and I'll see you on whatever I make next. Peace.